Let us now start with our to-do list project, and in this we are going to understand more about useReducer hook. We will see how to pass dispatch function as a prop, how to accept that, how to pass event handlers, each and everything we are going to learn. But if you have watched all the previous lecture, then easily you will understand this entire project. So here I am having input field. Inside this I can add the task. I am having one button. Now here I am just going to write cut apples, add, task will be added, and for this I am having complete and delete button. When I click on this delete button for one of this item will be deleted. When I click on this complete, text will be changed to undo, and I will be having this different styling for the text. Again I can delete this. I can click on this. Successfully, I am able to add the task. I am able to complete the task, and also I am able to delete the task. And if I have not written anything and if I click on add, no task will be added. But again, if I write something, click on add, task will be added along with two buttons. Now this entire project we are going to create using useReducer hook. So let us start with the project setup. I will continue in the same folder. You can create separate React tab. But now inside SRC, I am going to create one folder. I will write to-do list. Inside this, I will be creating one file. I will write tasklist.js. Now I will come to app.js. I'm just going to remove this counter. Instead, I will be writing task list. Now I just want to import the task list. I will remove this. Import task list, which is present inside to-do list folder, and inside that I am having this file. So successfully I have created one folder. Inside that I have added this tasklist.js, and inside app.js I have just imported that component. Now I will just come to tasklist.js. I will be writing this component function. First I'm just going to do default export function. Then I will be writing task list, and inside this I'm just going to write return. Here I will be writing h1. Inside this I'm just going to write to-do list. Come here. Now you can see successfully I am able to display that text. Why I am having this styling? Because inside app.css for this entire app I have given the styling. Accordingly, you can give your own stylings. So first what we will do, we are going to create our static structure. I will remove this entire thing. Here I will be creating div, and for this div I will give the class as task-list-container. Inside this I will be creating form, and for this I will give the class as task form, and I do not need any action attribute. I am going to remove. Then inside this form I will be creating label. Inside HTML4 I will give task input, and here I will give the text. Here I am simply going to write add task. For this I will be adding the class name. I will paste is equal to, I will write here task hyphen label. Save it. Come here. Now you can see successfully my label is displayed. Below this label I will be creating input field, and for this I am just going to give the class as task input. Then I will also give the ID, inside which I will be giving exact same name. Copy, and here I will be pasting. Now successfully I am able to display this input field, and also I am going to add placeholder. Here I will write enter your task. Now here placeholder is also displayed. Below this I just want to create one button. I will write here button, and for this I will give task submit btn. Here simply I will write add. Save. Successfully I am able to display this button. Now what I want to do, whenever I click on add, my list item has to be added below. But here I will not be creating as list. Instead, below this form, I will create div, and for this I will give the class as task list. So this will be my entire container for all the tasks added. Inside this, I will be creating one more div, and for this I will give the class as task item. Inside this, I will write span, and for this I'm just going to give the class as task name, and here I will write pack bags. Okay, this is the dummy data, so you do not have to worry. Below that, I should be creating two buttons. Here I will write button. For this button, I will give the class as task hyphen action hyphen btn, and also I will be giving one more class, that is complete btn. Initially, I am just going to display complete. Now you can see my list item is displayed as well as this button is displayed. But here stylings are missing. Instead of act, I have to write action. Now this button is displayed. Below this, I just want to display my delete button. And here I will write delete hyphen btn. Save. Now you can see successfully we have created our static structure. But now each and every time when I am adding the task, list items will be added. So what we can do, for this list item, we can create separate component. So now inside this to-do list, I will be creating one file task.js. Here I will write export default function, and inside this I will give task. Then I will write here return. I will come to task list, and from here I'm just going to copy entire thing, cut it from here, and inside this I will be pasting entire code. Let me just remove this. Now this task.js I have to import inside tasklist.js. So here I will write task that will be imported from this file. You can see successfully I have imported. Let me come here. Again, I will be having the same result. Why I have created separate component? Because each and every time when we are adding the task, multiple tasks will be added. That is the reason we have created separate component for our code. So our basic static structure is done. We have created form, we have given the label, we have given input field, and also we have created button. And below that, to rendered list, we have created separate component, and inside that we have passed this dummy data. I believe you have completed till here. Now let us move on with our project. Now inside this form, I am having input field. So whenever we are working with form, first we have to make our input field as control element. So here I am going to use state. I will write here const, and inside this I will be writing task name, then setter function set task name is equal to use state. As soon as I hit enter, that will be imported from React library. Initially, I do not want to give any value. Now maybe you will have question, instead of useReducer, why are we using this use state? So that we are going to see in next lecture when we see about a challenge. Now what I have to do? I have to make this input field as control element. So inside this value, I will be passing this task name. So whenever I type something, onChange event handler will be called. So here I will write onChange, and inside this I will be passing my event object. Now each and every time I am updating, so I will call my setter function, and inside this I will write e.target.value. Save it. Come here. Now whenever I type successfully, I will be able to type inside this input field. If I do not update this, let me just show you. If I do not update, remove, come here, refresh once. If I do not update, even if I type here, nothing will be displayed. So that is the reason whenever we are changing something inside input field, our onChange event handler will be called, and inside that we are just updating our state. So here successfully we have made our input field as controlled element. Now let us work on submitting the form. So whenever our form is submitted, this onSubmit event handler will be called, and inside this I will be creating this function handle submit. I will copy this function. Below this state, I'm just going to create this function. And each and every time, whenever I'm submitting form, I do not want to reload my page. Let me show you what happens. I will write something, hit enter. You can see my page was reloaded and entire data is been removed. So we are just going to prevent this default behavior. Here I will write e.prevent default. And I believe whenever you work with vanilla JavaScript, you have always prevented this default behavior. Now I'll save, type something, hit enter. You can see page is not refreshed and also my data is present here. So now let us finally start with our useReducer. And what I want, whenever I click on add button, I have to add items to my list. So what I am doing, I am just updating my UI. So whenever we are updating something, we can use our piece of state. But now let us see how to use useReducer. Below this, I will be writing useReducer. Hit enter. This will be imported from React library. But here we are having useState, which is also imported from React library. So instead of passing two lines, what I can do, copy and here separate by comma, paste the hook and remove this import. Now this reducer will be taking reducer function and initial state as its argument. So here I'm just going to write initial task. You can also give initial state. It completely depends on you what variables you want to use. Now this function is going to return array which immediately we are going to destructure. So first we are going to create state and then we are going to have our dispatch function. So successfully we have created our use state. Now let us start with our initial task. Initially in my UI, I will be having form as well as I will be having add button. I will not be having any list item. So initially entire thing will be empty. So here copy, create this variable initially just assign to empty array. Because inside this empty array, later on we are going to add the list item and that list items will be object. So inside array, we are going to have object and one object represents one list item. We have successfully assigned that initial task. Now let us start working on reducer function. Below this, I will be creating function reducer and it is going to take two parameters, our state and action. State is nothing but current state, and inside this reducer function we are going to manage our state, and each and every time it is going to return next updated state. So here I will be writing switch and then I will be writing action.type. First case I will write here add hyphen task. Now when this action has to be triggered, when we submit the form, only then our list item has to be added. So inside this handle submit, I am going to pass here dispatch, and inside this I will be passing my action, and my action is nothing but object. I will be passing type, and inside that I am going to pass this exact same value. So whenever I click on add button, this dispatch will be executed, and inside that I have passed action. So that action will be passed here along with current state, and based on that this case will be executed. So let me show you. I will write here return. Simply, I'm just going to alert hello. Save it. Come here. Refresh once. Now here, I will just write something. As soon as I click on add, you can see successfully I am able to get this hello. How I am getting this hello? Because as soon as my form is submitted, this dispatch is triggered. Inside that, we have passed action, and inside this reducer, we have passed current state and action. But here, inside this, what we have done, we have simply returned alert. Now I am just going to remove this, remove entire thing. Instead, I will be writing here return. Inside this array, initially what I will do, whatever data, okay, doesn't matter if you are having data or not. Initially, using this spread operator, I am just going to copy this entire state. And for adding the task, I will be creating new function. Here, I will write create new task. And inside this, I will be passing this argument name. But now, as soon as I save and come here, I will be having create new task is not defined. So let us create this function. Come here, copy, and here I'm just going to create this function. And inside this, I will be passing the parameter as name. Save it. Now I will come here. Now again, I am having this unexpected use of name. Why? Because inside this switch case, while calling, I have passed this name. Because our reducer is not having access to this name. So to give access to reducer, what we will do, inside this dispatch, we are going to pass our payload property. Here, I will be writing payload, and this payload can also be complex data. You can either pass primitive value or you can pass object. But inside this payload, I will be passing object. For this name property, simply I'm just going to give task name. And this task name is nothing but our state variable. So whatever I am typing inside this input field, that I have passed to my payload along with this name property. Now what I want, whenever I am creating this function, instead of directly passing the name, how I should access? Inside this action, we are having payload, and inside payload, we are having this name property. So here I will remove, I will write action. Inside action, I am having payload, and inside payload, I am having name. Now if I save, you can see that error has gone and everything is working fine. I hope you understood. Whenever I am submitting the form, I am triggering my dispatch. Inside that, I have passed action. And inside this payload, I am passing object. And inside that object, I am just getting my task name. If you do not want to give this entire thing, remove this. Directly, you can pass action.payload. But mostly, whenever we are having large data, inside payload also, we are going to pass object. Again, if I save, I will be having same result without any error. But let me just follow this convention, and I will be passing object to this payload. Now here, our reducer is having access to this name. So whenever I click on this add button, what I am doing, I am just copying my entire state, and I am just calling this create new task function. So inside this function, what I will do, I will return object, because each and every time when my item is added, it will be added as object. So this will be having this structure array, first item, then again second item, then again second item, then again third item. So in this structure, my items will be added. So initially it is array and my items will be added as object. So here I will write ID, and inside this I will be writing date.now. You can use libraries to generate random numbers. Then I want name which will be equal to this name. whatever name I have typed inside the input field, that will be passed here and that name will be set. And when I am calling this, I will be having access to that name. Then finally, I just want to check if my task is completed or not. By default, it will not be completed. So here I will write false. That's it. Simple enough. Whenever I am submitting my form, I have triggered this action along with this type and payload. And for this payload, I have added object which will be having my task name. That is the data which I have entered in my input field. So once this dispatch is triggered, inside this reducer, this case will be handled. I'm just copying my entire state, and inside that, why I'm copying this entire state? Because inside array, I will be adding multiple items. If I don't copy, then all the items will be overridden. So that is the reason I have copied my entire state, and after that, I am calling this new task. And inside this function, I am returning ID, I am returning name, and I am returning completed. Save it. Come here, refresh once. Now here I will be adding cut apples. Click on add. You can see the item is not added, but let me show you. I will just come here. Here simply I'm just going to log my state. Save it. Come here. Inspect this. And inside this console, you can see this cut apples is added. And this is nothing but my object. Now I will remove this. Here I will be writing packed bags. Click on add. Now you can see, just come down inside this array. Now I am having cut apples and also I am having packed bags. So whatever items I am adding, that is nothing but an object which is having ID, name as well as completed property, exact same structure which we have written inside this create new task. So now using this, what we have generated array of object. So once we are having array, we can easily loop through this array. So this entire thing, I'm just going to wrap inside this curly braces. Now my state is nothing but array. So I just have to loop through this array. Here I will be writing state.map. I will just close in parenthesis. And inside this, I will be passing task, close, callback function. Simply what I have done, I have just called my task. Save it. So now if you see here, 2 times I am able to display this. Let me refresh. Nothing is there. Whatever dummy data I have given, that is also not displayed. Why? Because now initially my state is empty. Let me just show you. Now you can see initially I am not having any item inside my array. If I am not having, nothing will be displayed inside this task. But here I will be writing cut apples. Click on add. Now one item is added. So whatever dummy data I am having inside task.js, that will be rendered. Now here I will write pack. Click on add. Now 2 times the task will be generated. So that is the reason 2 times I am having this dummy data. Why? Because inside this state, now I am having 2 elements. If I give something, pack, click on add. Now you can see multiple objects will be added inside my array. That many times the task will be rendered and I will be having this list. Now I am going to close. Now what I want, this task I just want to pass as a prop inside this task.js. Copy, because this task is having entire data. I will write here task and then I'm just going to pass task. After that, I just have to accept my task. Here I will be writing task. This is nothing but prop and immediately I have destructured that prop. Here I will write log. Simply, I just want to display task. Now you can see what it has given. It has given me object. And inside each object, I will be having the data which I have typed and clicked on add button. Now this is my object. Now in place of this, remove entire thing. I will write task.name. That's it. Now you can see whatever data I have added successfully, I am able to render that data. Again, I will refresh. Here I will write factbacks. Data is added. Now, as soon as I click on add, this data is not been removed. So what I will do, inside this task list, inside this handle submit function, here I'm just going to update my state. I will just give empty string again. As soon as my form is submitted, I just want to empty my input field. Come here, remove this. Now here I will be adding cut apples. As soon as I click on add, input field is emptied and also this item is added. And whenever we are using map method, we should always pass the key. If you do not pass, then we will be having this error. Let me show you. We are going to have each child in a list should have unique key prop. So here inside this, here I will write key is equal to task.id because id is unique. So that is the reason I have passed task.id. Okay, successfully we have completed our first functionality, that is adding list item. Now what we just want to work on this complete functionality. Whenever I click on this button, item should be having different style as well as this complete text should be changed to undo text. But the problem is our dispatch function is present inside tasklist.js and this dispatch is returned from this reducer function. So whenever I want to update something, I have to trigger action using this dispatch function. But we are not having access to dispatch function in our task.js file because this button is present inside this and we are not having access to dispatch function inside task.js. So what we have to do? We have to pass dispatch as prop. And we already know inside this prop we can pass functions as well. I will copy and here I am going to paste. If we were not using useReducer, then for that we would have to create separate function. We should be passing that function again for completing, for deleting, for updating. For each and every functionality, we would have created separate function and accordingly we would have passed all the functions as a prop. But here we are using useReducer, so we do not have to pass anything. Only thing we have passed is dispatch function as a prop. Now I have to accept this. Here I will be writing dispatch. Now once I am having access to this dispatch, I can easily trigger the action now. So here inside this complete, I will write on click. Now here I am just going to pass dispatch. But here directly we cannot call. Instead, we should be passing as function value. I will be passing callback function. Now inside this, I will give type. This is nothing but object type and here I will give toggle task. Whenever I click on this button, I have to dispatch my function along with this action. So now this is my action. Now I'm just going to copy this action. Come inside this task list. Below this case, I will be writing another case and for this I will give this toggle task. Now here let me just write alert. Inside this I will be writing hello. Save it. Come here. Click on this. You can see successfully I am able to get this alert. So what we have done, we have only passed dispatch function as a prop and accordingly we have just triggered our action. Now I will remove this alert. But before that, inside action, we should also know what is the ID of that item. So whenever I click on complete, only that ID which is getting matched, that ID has to be completed. So here I will come, then I will be adding my payload property. Again inside this, I will be creating object I will give ID, and inside this, I'm just going to access ID from my task. So inside this task, I will have ID, I will have name, and I will be having completed status. So we have accessed the name, and also we have accessed the ID of each and every element. Now I am going to come here. I will write here return. So here what I have to do. Now initially what data I am having, I will be having array of objects. I will write here, in this way I will be having my data. So I have to loop through all this data, and I have to check if my task ID is equal to action.payload.id. If it is, then what I have to do, I just have to toggle my completed property. So let me show you first, then you will understand. Now state is nothing but array. So I will be writing state. Then I will be using map method, and inside this I'm just going to pass task. I will open curly braces. Now I'm just going to check if my task ID. So this task will be having all the object. Inside that I'm checking if this task ID, if it is equal to action dot payload dot id. This is nothing but the item which I have clicked. For that also we are going to have ID. So from this array, if any of the object matches with that ID, then what I have to do, I will write here return. Now these items are nothing but object. I will just copy entire task. Instead, what I will do, I will write here complete property. So initially it is false. Whenever I click on this complete, I have to change to true. If it is true, I have to change to false. So here I will write task.complete. Why task.complete? Because this task will be having all the data of this object, and inside that object we are having this complete property. So from that object we are accessing complete property, and we are just toggling that complete property. And here we have copied all the object. If you do not copy, then it will overwrite and we will not be having any proper result. Now save, remove this. But if this condition is failed, what I want to do, simply I just want to return my entire task. I do not want to change anything. Only if this condition is matched, I just want to do this. If this condition is false, then simply I just want to return my task. Now here I will pack bags. Let me just inspect. I will click on add. Now you can see initially my complete is false. But as soon as I click on this, you can see complete value is changed to true, and rest entire thing is same. So that is the reason inside this we are checking if the task ID is equal to the item ID which I have clicked, then what I have to do, I just have to toggle my complete, and rest entire thing will be same. But if I do not do this, let me show you what happens. Save it, inspect, refresh once. Here I will be writing cut apples, click on add, I am having. But as soon as I click on complete, you can see rest entire thing is gone, and I am only left with completed property, that is true. So each and every time when you are returning next updated state, you just have to copy the previous state. Only then you will be having exact same result. Now accordingly, we have to change the stylings. So here first I will enter into JavaScript mode. Here I will check if my task dot complete. If it is true, then what I want to do, I just want to display undo, or else I just want to display this complete. Save it, come here, refresh once, tag packs, click on add, click on complete. You can see my text is changed to undo. Why? Because now my task dot complete is true. Again I will click, now it is false, my text will be changed to complete. But now whenever I click on this complete button, this element should be having different styling. So this entire thing I'm just going to wrap inside JavaScript mode. I will remove, and here I will be giving template literal. Let me just give template literal, and inside this I will be checking if my task.complete, if it is true, then what I want to do, I just want to add this complete class, or else I do not want to add any class. Now you can see initially it is true, so that is the reason this styling is applied. As soon as I click on this, it becomes false and those stylings are removed. Click on complete, stylings are applied. Again click, stylings will be removed. Successfully, we have done with this functionality. Now we are left with this delete functionality. So again, you can see again for delete, we do not have to pass any event handler. Why? Because we have already passed our dispatch as a prop. Now what we have to do, inside this, I will be writing on click. Same process you have to repeat, dispatch, and inside this we have to pass action. Here I will write type, and inside this I will give the value as delete task. And also I just want payload because I just want to know for what item I have clicked. So again, I'm just going to access the ID. That's it, simple enough. Now I will copy, come to this tasklist.js. Below this, I'm just going to create another case. So now here, we are simply going to use array filter method, return. Here I will write state.filter, and inside this, I will be passing callback function task. Now this task will be having access to all the object, and from that task object, I am checking if my task.id, if it is not equal to action dot payload dot id, then simply I just want to filter that element. So how this will be working, let me just write the proper spelling. So for inside this, for each and every object we are going to have id. Suppose I have clicked on id 3, so here I will have id 1, id 2, id 3. id 1 is not equal to 3, yes it is, so it will be filtered and it will be present inside the array. Then 2 is not equal to 3. Yes, it is. So again that will be filtered and that will be present inside the array. Then I will have 3. 3 is not equal to 3. The condition fails and that item will be removed from the array. So I will only be left with ID1 and ID2. So this is how our filter method will be working. Now I'll come here. Now I'll just click on this delete. You can see successfully I am able to delete item. Finally, inside this switch, we have to add default case. Here I will write default. Then simply I'm just going to return state. In older code bases, we would have written throw new error. But here simply we are going to return our state. Let me come here. I will add backpacks, add cut apples, add, click on complete, stylings are applied, click on delete, entire functionality is working. So here, let us revise what we have done. First, we have created the state and we have made our input element as controlled element. Then we have used our useReducer, which will be taking reducer function and initial state, and in return, we are going to get our state and dispatch. So initially, entire thing will be empty. So that is the reason we have assigned empty array. And whenever we submit the form, first we have to prevent default reloading of our page, and then we have to trigger this action using this dispatch function. And also, once our form is submitted, we have to clear our input field. And inside this payload, we have given access to the value which we have typed inside the input field. Now here, using this switch statement, we are just checking for all these cases. So this first case will be matched. I am returning all the previous state. Then I am just calling this function with the value which I have entered inside this input field. And inside this function, I am returning object for each and every item which will be having ID, name and completed property. And by default, completed property will be false. So after that, once I click on add button, my items will be added. Then we should work on the completed status and the complete button is present inside task.js. So what we will do, simply we are just passing this dispatch function as a prop and accordingly we are just accepting that prop. Then we are just triggering this action inside this dispatch and here we are also getting access to the ID for this particular item. Then here inside this toggle task, we are just looping through entire array and we are checking if our object ID is equal to the item ID which we have clicked, then only toggle this completed property. If this is false, then return my complete task. Similarly, for deleting also, we have triggered this action using this dispatch. Inside this also, we have passed ID. So whenever we are deleting using array method, we are checking if the task ID is not equal to the ID we have clicked, then simply filter that and put inside the new array. Then default, we are just returning our complete state. So this is our complete project using our useReducer. But still, you can see we are using setter function. Take this as a challenge and instead of using useState, try to convert this entire logic into useReducer and try to display the result. But in next lecture, we are going to see solution for this and this entire state we are going to convert into useReducer.